What would you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and every once in a while, Perch and I will get together and we'll do like a top 5, maybe a bottom 5 kind of list. And today we're going to talk about maybe not the 5 worst hot takes by comic pros ever, but 5 bad takes by comic book pros. I'm going to play the clip. We're going to hear what they had to say, and maybe Perch will tell me I'm wrong. It's like, oh, that was perfectly reasonable, or maybe he'll just burn them along with me. But obviously, here to talk with me about this is El Percherito himself, the Poobah of comics. Perch, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and this is gonna be fun.
It is going to be fun. You don't even know what I'm playing. There are a couple of notorious quotes in here, but there's a couple of underliers that not everybody knows about. I'm going to be bringing out some cool stuff. The first person we're going to talk about is Tom King. Now, I am not the biggest fan of his Batman run. I think it started okay, but it ended very poorly. And in 2017 at MegaCon, he was doing an interview along with Scott Snyder. I believe it's on Monkeys Fighting Robots. Mm-hmm. And they asked Tom King, what makes Batman special? And Scott goes into this big, long thing about, he's got a code and, he'll never do this. And this is why, he's a great character. And they got to Tom King. And I love this because the look on Scott Snyder's face when Tom King gives him his answer. And I think you're going to get some insights into why maybe Tom King's Batman wasn't so hot. Here it goes.
I think in the end, it's like 2 things. It's like he's the good guy and he wins. Like those are the 2 things. Right? To me, like he's the hero of the story. Like life is too hard, man. Like people need a hero, and Batman should be that
hero. Sorry. What a shallow take.
He's the hero, and he always wins, Perch.
Yeah, that's why people like him. He always wins, and he's a hero. That's an interesting take on Batman. That's said by somebody who really has no idea what's going on with that character.
He's just a generic superhero number 5 to him, I guess.
Yeah.
But the best part is Scott Snyder's face. He's kind of like, don't put this on tape, man.
I mean, it's so Tom King is semi-notorious for just saying kind of nonsense to off the cuff without really kind of, not that he's not thinking about it, but maybe he's it's not trolling. I don't know what to say. He doesn't put a lot of effort into these things sometimes. I'm not excusing. I'm not hand waving it away, but that's the only way I could wrap my head around that quote. That's a really stupid take on Batman.
Oh yeah, I just love it. It's so shallow. It's so nondiscreet. It's so not Batman. He's a hero and he always wins. People need a hero. That's what makes it's like. Oh, and it's not that he's a hero born in tragedy. It's not that he's motivated to avenge the murder of his parents and save Gotham from itself. It's not that he has a code that he won't murder anybody. He's a loner that has an enormous family that loves him. The wonderful bond that he has with Alfred.
The tortured attempt to kind of connect with the world around him despite his isolation, that's terrible. And what's funny, that description I think can be used for every single character in comics. That's what makes him unique.
Except for what was the Mystery Man?
Yeah.
They always died.
They always die. Yeah, Doom Patrol, maybe that doesn't fit them. I don't know, but you just described every comic character ever. So congratulations to Tom King.
It's time to put Tom King on like Hulk. We need to put him on Superman. We need to get him on all the big heroes. He needs to be an X-Men writer because they're the heroes and they always win.
They're the heroes now, and maybe that's the why Tom King felt so compelled to make Batman depressed and sappy and not win. I don't know.
Time to change it up, boys.
That's awful. Okay, so you're coming out the gate strong with that.
I like that one. That was one of my favorites. And the next one is Brian Michael Bendis, another favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah,
this is from DC Daily. I think it's episode 153. He's kind of talking about Superman and the changes that he did with Jonathan Kent. And he's trying to emphasize that when Jonathan Kent was aged up, Superman missed out on all this as part of his life. And he was put in a bad situation. But when he came back, he wasn't ruined. He was still Superboy, and he had survived his trials, and like he was a hero that was ready to go, and people were going to understand that by the end of his run. I don't think that has happened, but he also made a prediction about the fans. Let's hear this.
Oh boy.
Come to his son as an adult and or a young adult and try to like reestablish what that means. But I think the takeaway is how ready for primetime John was,
right?
Because of Lois and Clark. I think
because of his parents.
Yeah, that's the takeaway people are going to see. And then when they see that, they'll go on Twitter and apologize for yelling at me. That's what they do. When they see the wrong, they apologize immediately. It's so nice. The internet always does.
You guys owe him an apology. Let's be real, okay? I expect it.
Well, okay. So clearly some sarcasm there. I do appreciate that. I mean, obviously none of that played out the way he said. I think that if the plan was that we were supposed to see that John Kent was more ready than other kids his age to step into that kind of hero role, then that was a failure, because we definitely did not get that takeaway. I mean, most of his time on Legion has been Superboy John kind of wandering around, confused.
Bouncing around situations where he's like, what am I doing here? Why am I in this cafe?
Yeah, the majority of the way he's been written is confused and not knowing why he's around and being kind of stunned by things. So that plan was a failure. And no, I guess he's right. The fans have not come around and apologized to him yet. But hope springs eternal. It could still happen. You've got one more month. You can pull it out.
Could happen by December. I'm not apologizing. I ain't apologizing for nothing, Perch. I don't apologize to my wife. I ain't apologizing to Bendis for a hot take of my own. You kidding me?
I mean, I don't know. It's so confusing, and I mean, it kind of represents the thin skin, I think, sometimes on these guys that. Because I've heard other interviews with Bendis where he kind of goes back to the same thing of the fans.
There was a CBR interview where he said fans were going to apologize.
Yeah, he likes to go to that, and I think there's some level of kind of broken truth inside of him where on one hand he's being sarcastic, like the internet never apologizes for their takes, but you could tell he would really like it if they would. But I mean, you're one of the top writers by pay and by name recognition. Why do you care inherently? I mean, your focus should be on putting out great books and keeping that paycheck rolling, not if the internet's going to give you an apology for your shitty John Kent take. I mean, I don't know.
Also, your job is probably to gauge the interest of the fans, realize that your take on Jonathan Kent isn't working, and maybe you need to readjust, recalibrate what you're doing with the character, and maybe see if there's something else that you do. But I think he's a little too stubborn to admit that he was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mean, the funny part is, if you listen to that idea, the idea that Jonathan Kent, when all is said and done, they're going to age him up, and the revelation will come out that Clark and Lois were such great parents, and they had positioned him so well that he would be like an amazing superhero, because he's
like an incorruptible.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's an interesting concept. You didn't pull that off at all, but that's an interesting idea. But maybe he thinks he did. I mean, maybe this goes back to how Bendis writes his comics, where he tells you what you're supposed to understand, and maybe what's coming up are just some word bubbles of Lois going, well, clearly you have been the best raised child ever. I am awesome. I mean, I don't know, but it didn't. He definitely hasn't shown that approach, so that's a shame.
The only thing I know about Bendis' Superman is that everyone thinks Lois Lane is cooler than Superman.
Yeah, they're big fans. Absolutely big fans. The best fans.
I'm a huge fan of your mom.
Yeah.
Huge fan of your wife.
That'd be creepy after a while. I don't know. People are coming up to me like, your mom. I'm a big fan of your mom. Like, okay, settle down.
I used to get that in high school, and I was not a fan. Let me tell you that.
I'm not a fan of that comment. Yeah.
No. So the next one is Dan Slott. Now, there is a notorious comment out there where he essentially said, comic book fans don't know what they need.
Sure.
And it's my job to kind of fill that in. I didn't want to go that route, but there was also an interview with EVS, kind of back in the day when EVS used to do interviews with other comic pros in 2017. And he brought up block bots. And obviously, Dan Slott calls himself Slotto Blocktavius.
Yeah.
He's somewhat notoriously proud of his block bot campaign to shut himself off with customers. And he actually explained why he does that and how he sees those customers and why he didn't think it was a big deal. This one's illuminating.
I don't care about little pixels on a screen. At the end of the day, a lot of people are pixels on a screen. They choose a screen name, they choose an avatar. They're not being who they are in real life. They're being a persona. And I don't worry about hurting the feelings of a persona.
Well, I mean, of course he doesn't care about pixels on the screen. He can't eat them.
It's such a strange take because he's just lumping because of a few people who follow people he doesn't like were mean to him that everyone else. And in the case of his Blockbot, I think it's like over 30,000 potential customers, a lot of which don't use avatars, use their real face, use their real name, just want to know about the comic books, but they're not real people, Perch. They're just pixels.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common belief. If you talk to a number of creators, they say similar things to defend the use of blockbots, that these aren't real people. These are just kind of the avatars on a screen. The real people are actually, they're still buying the comics. They still like their stuff. And the people who he blocks are not real. So it really doesn't matter. Now, of course, the world doesn't work that way. That's not actually what's going on. And it's, but I've come around. I think at this point, given the kind of absolute insanity that you see on a daily basis for some of these pros, I've changed my mind. I am glad when some of these guys run block bots. You are sparing me from your insane nonsense. So you're doing me a favor by taking yourself out of the pool of me having to listen to you. And so I've come around on it. Block me more. I mean, please, if you're going to put out your nutty hot take on maybe why Batman and the Riddler have a gay relationship that needs to be explored in a YA graphic novel. Block me, please. I don't want to see that.
Me personally, I'm more indifferent to block bots. I think it's a bad business decision, but certainly it's an available resource. If you want to go block all your customers, go right ahead and block. But when the sales dip and you don't get to connect with your customers, I think it's stupid. But I do think it is insightful that these aren't real people. They don't have real money. I don't know why the comic sales are dropping.
It's very insightful, and please, for the viewers, I'm being sarcastic. Clearly,
absolutely,
pick that up because I do. Block bots are not helpful, and the problem, blocking is one thing. You get somebody coming at you, and they're being a pain, and you block them. That makes sense. It's a one-to-one relationship. Even if they're a customer, if you're going to have somebody who's going to take the piss out of you online as an individual, it's not a bad idea to block them.
Feedback is one thing, harassment is another.
Sure, it totally is. Now, block bots, though, are a different story. That's where you're just
indiscriminate.
Yeah, you're just blocking a huge group of people who you've never interacted with. And the group that gets hurt with this the most are the new up-and-coming creators that are often encouraged by the senior people to run these block bots. These are people who need that recognition and that fan support, especially at the early stages of their careers. And I've come to the conclusion a lot of the more senior comic creators kind of encourage this as a way to put a wall, frankly, between themselves and up-and-coming creators. People like Al Ewing or Dan Slott, they're established. Their name means something. Block bots, I think, are still harmful, but they're way less harmful to them than, say, a brand new indie up-and-coming creator who's going to block out their potential audience. So it's an interesting, I think it's a pretty deceitful, deceptive thing that goes on there.
Pretty stupid. It's not something that you should be proud of, but he gave himself a nickname, Slotto Blocktavius, so I think he is quite proud of his blockbot usage.
He's proud. Who knows?
So another favorite target here on the channel, obviously not anymore. He's no longer at DC Comics as Dan Didio. As the co-publisher and basically the chief creative officer there for a while, you and I had noticed that DC Comics, under his stewardship, there was a lot of start and stop. And he was always messing with the continuity and everything. And I think I know why. This is from MegaCon as well from 2017. But this is an interview. I believe it's also on Monkeys Fighting Robots. Let's hear what Dan Didio had to say about
connection with the core sensibilities of the characters and material. So every once in a while you have to reset. And so with Rebirth, we got a little bit of a reset back on the character side. And the reaction's been great. And now it's time to start playing with them again. And we're off to the races again one more time.
And
I mean, what can you do?
The fans are happy. We've got the characters back to where they want them to be. It's time to go off the fucking deep end again.
and in 2017, so I mean, you're talking about how long had Rebirth even been going at that point? I mean, we're talking months later, not even. I mean, we're not even talking any significant length of time has passed. So, yeah, I mean, that's Didio's style. He enjoy, and a lot of creators also have this point of view, which is don't let the fans get comfortable with their characters. Don't give them what they want. Don't give them what they kind of desire, and instead you need to challenge them and poke them and take characters in different directions and maybe antagonize them a little bit. And I think that's an absolutely terrible idea, but you know, it's I don't know what to say. I think it's a vast misunderstanding of your market.
I say take risks, do interesting things with the characters, but at the core of what DC Comics or Marvel Comics should be who those characters are. Like once you start experimenting with them too much, they become unrecognizable. But like I said, you can see from that interview, like Dan Didio's like mantra or his leadership style was, well, now that the fans are happy again, let's twist them.
Yeah,
it's just so silly.
It is. It's and I mean that's a style I think that people can use. I think definitely subverting expectations can be occasionally a good thing. It can be a surprise element if you're smart at it.
We all saw Empire Strikes Back.
Sure. Yeah.
No one thought that was going to end on the downer.
That's right. You can do it. You can make it happen, but it is. You can't have that be your go-to with everything because, like you say, you then start to warp the core of what the actual character is, and then nobody shows up to the party in the first place. And
people get jaded because they know they're never going to get what they wanted.
Right. Yeah. Or even if they do, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
So
you're just going to immediately undo it. So, yeah, we talked about it on the channel. I was like, that's a great quote. That explains exactly why this happened.
Yeah. These people are very revealing about themselves.
So the last one is probably the most notorious hot take I know that a comic pro has ever done. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually kind of agree with Kelly Sue DeConnick's take here. I think it's all about the delivery that she does in this Sci-Fi Wire interview from 2017, where it's so condescending.
Yeah.
That it just
that's
the wrong message.
Yeah. And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Problem solved. You don't like my Twitter feed? Unfollow me. Magic. I don't come into your house and yell at you. You got to seek me out. So don't.
Yeah, I mean, like you, she's not wrong in the sense that if you don't like something, don't buy it. Absolutely. That's true for everybody, but it is. I mean, the part of course, that she said, I don't come into your living room. Well, yeah, except you kind of do. I mean, you get on these properties that are well established, well known, and then you take them in the direction you want to take them in. And so you are kind of coming into somebody else's playground and inserting yourself into it. I mean, so it's not completely like you're doing these magical new IPs that are yours. She's tried that in the past. They've failed. So it is a funny, but the condescension, I mean, it is extremely on brand for.
It's the tone, man.
Dude, yeah, that's her. That is definitely her, and it's one reason why, one reason among many why she doesn't have a lot of high profile work going on in comics, because that same.
She's got to regret it by now, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, that's the tone she uses a lot of her peers and coworkers and superiors in some of these comic companies. Like she's a delight to work with, as you can imagine. So,
it turns out when you dare the customers, to just stop reading your books, they'll take you up on it.
Yeah,
their sales suck. When she went on Aquaman, they tanked.
Yeah, if you. And this is again the problem. That's a perfectly good, acceptable, and like I say, I agree with parts of what she says there. But you have to do that on your own books. You have to do that on your properties, on the things that you do. Coming in and going into an existing property and bringing that, you're playing with somebody else's toys, and maybe fans don't like you to wreck their toys, and maybe companies don't either, which is why you don't get a lot of callbacks. I don't know. It's the condescension is pretty hilarious there.
But yeah, I mean, I'm 100%. If you don't like someone's politics, that much that it makes you feel gross buying their comic books. Don't buy their comic book. Who cares what character is? Somebody else will replace them soon enough. There's back issues to go by. Like, do not do something that you feel uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Even if it's based on something about politics, even if it's based on, I can't believe they would think that about Star Wars. How can I support that person? If that bothers you that much, don't buy that comic book. There's another comic book out there for you.
There absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, it's your money. And I think so many things would be solved, overall. And what's weird is, I've said this before, I've done probably a lot of videos on this topic. And I get people who get really agitated by me saying this, but it is your money. It's none of my business how you want to spend it. I don't care how you want to spend it. When I say that, I don't mean I don't care if you have an opinion or not. Of course I care if you have an opinion. As a retailer, you have to care why people are not buying things. But at the end of the day, the only person who owns that opinion is you. It's your cash. You decide. And so yeah, she's absolutely right about that. But what she's not thinking through is that, yeah, people are then going to decide to nope out of your products, and then you are not going to have work. And maybe your giant Netflix streaming deal isn't going to happen like you think. And then you're going to be around kind of, bitterly scraping around the industry.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Possibly. It could possibly happen. Could happen. But those are just 5 hot takes. I thought it would have fun to kind of talk about them. They kind of run the gamut of things that I completely understand. Oh, like the hottest of takes on there, I actually agree with. It was just the delivery was so wrong on that one. But, we got to make fun of Tom King, Brian Michael Bendis, Dan Slott, Dan Didio, Kelly Sue. It's always a fun time when we can do that part.
Yeah, it's fun. And it is, I mean, look, I think that it really reveals, some of these people are, I mean, they don't know what they're doing any more than any of us do. They're put in these positions, they're shepherding these characters, and in many cases, they're making it up as they go. And it's interesting to watch. Comics are a funny little thing.
I just want to sign us off with this. The reason I know that El Percherino is a hero is because he's the good guy, and he always wins.
It's true. Yeah, that's people want my life story for sure. This was fun. We should do this more.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm having fun with the video format.
Yeah.